Planes have been flown for many decades. Few can notice the ages of planes that we travel in. On average, an aircraft is operable for about 20 years, with 51,000 flight hours and 75,000 pressurization cycles before it has to be retired. However, there are planes that have served for more than 90 years, but are still able to carry people from one continent to another. Here's a list of the oldest planes that are still in service. Be sure you watch up to the end, so that don't find yourself in the oldest plane. Number 10. Air Inuit. Model: Boeing 737-200. Year of first flight: 1978. Registration number: C-GNLK. Country: Canada. The first owner of the Canadian operator Air Inuit's Boeing 737-200 was Air Gabon. This aircraft, number C-GNLK, has flown for 4 different airlines in its 42 years of service and continues to fly today. It was delivered directly from the Boeing factory to Libreville International Airport in Gabon in Central Africa. From there, the French-owned province eventually transported the craft to various airlines before it ended up at Air Inuit. Number 9. Caspian Airlines. Model: Boeing 747-200. Registration number: FCQA. Year of first flight: 1978. Country: Iran. This aircraft, with registration FCQA, has been through a few hands. It began by serving as a part of the Iran Air Force. It was then leased to Iran Air until it was returned to the Air Force in January 1983. Iran Air leased it again in June 1984 and returned it to the Air Force in June of 1987. Iran Air would lease it one final time in August 1990 before Saha Air acquired it in July 1996. Saha Air restored the plane in 2008 before passing it on to its current owner, Caspian Airlines, in November 2018. With all that movement, it's almost surprising that the plane performs as well as planes of the modern age. Number 8. Conviasa. Model: Boeing 737-200. Year of first flight: 1976. Registration number: YV3434. Country: Venezuela. Conviasa is the flagship carrier of Venezuela with headquarters at the Simon Bolivar International Airport. It has an old first-generation Boeing 737-200 still in operation with a registration number YV3434. It has carried hundreds of thousands of passengers since its service start in 1976 and has always been in public operation in Venezuela, though for different airlines. Number 7. Nolinor C-GNLK. Model: Boeing 737-200. Year of first flight: 1974. Registration number: C-GNLK. Country: Canada. This Boeing 737-200, registration number G-GNLK, is still being flown by the Canadian airline operator, Nolinor Aviation. It's been flying since 1974 and has had a dozen owners over the years, beginning with flying for Transavia. This plane is still in operation, equipped with a low-bypass turbofan engine and gravel kit, which makes it a hardy bush plane suitable for rough takeoffs and landings. Its gravel kit blows high-pressure air down in front of the engine to prevent it from sucking up sand and gravel on takeoff. It has a nose ski on the nose as well for a similar purpose. Number 6. Iran Air Force. Model: Boeing 747-121. Year of first flight: 1969. Registration number: 528106. Country: Iran. The 6th oldest 747 ever built is considered active as a government plane in Iran as part of the Iranian Air Force. This plane used to be an Iraqi Airways machine before taken by Iran as war reparations in the 1980s. In 2020, the plane got out of a 6-year aircraft check, only to suffer a brake failure that caused engine damage during a test at the Rapide airport in Tehran. The plane is still considered active and will likely be refitted with an Iran Air 747 SP-86 engine. This comes as bad news after its extended maintenance check, but the plane may see active duty again soon. Number 5. Lockheed Super Constellation. Model: Lockheed 1049, Super Constellation. Year of first flight: 1943. Registration number: HBRSC. Country: United States. The Lockheed -1049 Lyra Super Constellation, nicknamed the Super Connie, was absolutely breathtaking when it debuted in 1943. Their triple-fin tails were post-war treasures that lasted all the way to the 60s, when the Boeing 747 took the reins. The last of the Super Connies served as civilian transports before being retired in the 1990s, at the latest. However, 2 Super Constellations from the old days still fly, one for the Historical Aircraft Restoration Society based in Australia. They can be seen at air shows around the world and draw the same awe from the crowds that they did in 1943. Number 4. Douglas DC-3. Model: DC-3. Year of first flight: 1934. Registration: many still in operation. Country: United States. The Douglas DC-3 is one of the most iconic planes in aviation history. It was the backbone of the Allied armies during World War II after already serving several years as the go-to passenger airliner, the first to offer coast-to-coast flights. Today, after over 80 years of service, several DC-3s remain airworthy. DDA Classic Airlines operates one for special bookings. Air Chatham's in New Zealand and Springbok Classic Air in South Africa offer scenic flights on Douglas DC-3s. Number 3. De Havilland Dragon Rapide. Model: Dragon Rapide. Year of first flight: 1934. Registration: GAEML. Country: England. This wooden biplane airliner has its place in aviation history. It's the plane that General Francisco Franco flew during the military rebellion that started the Spanish Civil War in 1936. It's the plane that evacuated General de Gaulle from France to England in 1940. And it's been flying ever since. Several de Havilland Dragon Rapide planes still offer pleasure flights. One such plane resides at Classic Wings at the Imperial War Museum in Duxford, England. There's another at the Membury Airfield in Berkshire. Number 2. Junkers Ju-52. Model: Ju-52. Year of first flight: 1930. Registration: many still in operation. Country: Germany. The Junkers Ju-52 was affectionately nicknamed Anti-Jew and was a civilian airliner in the 1930s in Germany. This plane was in a long line of goodies flying out of the Junkers workshop and was so well constructed that it saw military service during World War II. As a transport aircraft for the Luftwaffe, the Junkers Ju-52 flew for multiple airlines and air forces throughout the war. Even today, the German airline Lufthansa has maintained a Ju-52 in its fleet of aircraft and keeps her flight-worthy for special occasions. On request, the plane can be chartered for pleasure flights from Dubendorf, Switzerland. Bleriot monoplane. Model: Bleriot XI. Year of first flight: 1909. Registration: not applicable. Country: United States. The oldest plane still flying in the world is the Bleriot XI. And it's not even close. Where generations of aircraft have been built and retired in its wake, the Bleriot XI, one of the first planes ever, built in 1909, still flies in Hudson Valley in New York. This plane is not made of forged steel and aluminium, but slats of wood tied together by fabric and tightened by wire cables. The pilot should feel lucky to have gauges for airspeed, gas, elevation, and oil pressure, because that's all they have. To fly it, they sit on a wicker stool. Bleriot set records flying a similar version of this plane across the English Channel. Bought by Louis John Bergdahl, a beer brewery mogul, the plane was stored in his barn for decades. It was refurbished in the 1950s and is still flying today.
In Selfridges for 3 days. First day they had 20,000 people come through.